I'm going to do a scarf update, but I actually need somebody to help me with this. If you would kindly take that end, I am going to take this end, and we haven't even reached the last of the W's, and it looks like that. There is your scarf update.
Great.
So you're the process is you go all the way across and then down. Is that sort of?
So with some of the stripes, you go across and then down, and then this one you kind of do some wiggly bits in the middle, and then this one you go across and down, and then this one you do some wiggly bits on this side, and then you do some wiggly bits over here.
I love
it's not it's not like being produced evenly as you go. Like it's not like a printer bzz, 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 doing each line by line. No.
I mean, that's called machine knitting.
Yeah.
Although it would be cool if you just were like, you had a big, long, perfectly measured piece of yarn.
Where the
so
colors
it just
change?
automatically changes at the right spot?
So that the colors change at the right spot as you're going?
You tell him about gauge.
Gauge is amazing!
Yeah.
So gauge is what we call it, where you...
It's the different widths? No.
Yeah, well, it's the different size of stitches that you get for this. It can be the same needle, the same yarn, but two different knitters will actually produce a different gauge. The width of the knitting with the same number of stitches might be different, because some people are tighter knitters, some are looser knitters. Yeah, your hands,
the
how
tension.
much pressure you put on it. Yeah, tension is how tightly you knit. I'm a somewhat loose knitter, so I'm always going down in needle size to get the correct gauge, which is the correct number of stitches per 10 centimeter or 4-inch swatch. I have a lot of coasters out of the swatches that I have made. Because you want to make sure that your gauge is right before you knit a pattern, because otherwise, like the sweater I'm wearing now, would be entirely the wrong size.
And so what's funny about that is you can buy what I believe they call variegated yarn, where the color changes throughout the yarn. And the idea is that if you knit the pattern, they might include a pattern with it and be like, you can knit these socks that have like amazing stripes on them. But if you use the wrong gauge, or if you don't, like if you do a sample and you're like, this is not quite right, the stripes might be all messed up and wrong, and they might not not change at the right time.
So variegated yarn is literally what I'm talking. What I said. It's yarn that like changes color as you go, so that it makes a pattern.
There is a difference between variegated and self-striping yarn.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, that's right.
Variegated yarn is dyed in the skein generally, and it has different bits of color, so it all blends together. So one of the yarns that I'm wearing right now is a speckle, where it just has bits of color in it. This is an example of what we would call tone-on-tone variegated yarn. I'm going to go to the bone sound because I get really excited about my knitting. And you can see that this red has a whole bunch of different reds in it, but they blend into each other. So that's actually variegated. There's a more subtle effect in the gold tone, and that's a tone-on-tone variegated. If it's not all within a same color family, it's a bolder variegation, and it would be what we would call tone-on-tone. Now, self-striping yarns are designed with long color sections so that when you're knitting a sock or you're knitting a sweater, depending on what you're working with, it automatically creates stripes, and there is no way with a self-striping yarn to get it not to stripe unless you're knitting, say a sock yarn that's meant to be knit about yay big around, and then you're knitting something like absolutely massive with it. But it's always going to stripe. It's just the stripes are going to be smaller or bigger depending on your gauge.
Right. So you could have you could get or theoretically you could have Wonder Woman striped yarn that changes colors appropriately, so that you could just knit it across. It would be very
Wonder Woman socks. At some point this week, I'm going to be wearing my favorite socks of all, which are. The colorway, it's a self-stripe, and it's based on my favorite Harry Potter character, who's not from the same house as me, though. And that is, I have Tonks socks that are, bright pink and bright purple and have sparkles.
Nice.
So have you seen on the ice of this yarn that I put up? It's I believe a dyer, and what they do is they dye yarn specifically that when you knit it at a particular gauge, it makes a picture.
Yes.
So it's already done for you. Yeah.
So do they do it by Do they actually like knit the thing in white, dye it, and then unravel the whole thing? That would be awesome.
I really have no idea how they do it, but it's amazing.
They do blanks and then they they unravel it and do it. Yeah, that's how you do that.
I love that idea.
Neat.
Is this the impromptu joy of knitting? It's never not the joy of knitting when I'm around.
Indeed.
Sarah's showing
Sarah is
us
also
her-
knitting.
Yeah.
Her also knitting.
Yarn crafts are very popular here.
Oh, smart. Fingerless gloves.
Dang.
Yeah.
Can you do a pair for me while you're at it? You're at it?
Dude.
Sure.
Chat did not
Sure.
see those air quotes.
Sure.
There we
There you
go.
go.